There comes a quiet moment in life when you suddenly notice something has changed. You've spent years, maybe even decades, pouring your heart into raising your children, guiding them through every stage of life, sacrificing more than anyone ever knew. You were always there, giving them everything they needed, your time, your energy, your love. But now something feels off. Maybe they brush off your advice like it doesn't matter. Maybe they interrupt you or speak to you like you've somehow lost your place in their lives. Maybe they make you feel like you're in the way. And it hurts. It hurts in a place that words can't always reach. You might feel a mix of confusion, sadness, even anger. Because after all you've given, you're not asking for much. Just some respect. Just to be seen, heard, valued. And you may find yourself wanting to remind them of everything you've done, of the long nights, the silent sacrifices, all the times you chose them over yourself. But the truth is, getting upset won't change how they treat you. In fact, reacting with frustration often makes it worse. So what does work? How do you get your children to truly see you again? Not as someone to ignore, but as a presence to admire, someone whose wisdom still matters? Today I'm going to walk you through 6 powerful shifts, simple changes in the way you respond, that can quietly yet profoundly transform how your children view you. These aren't tricks, they're truths. And while some of them might surprise you, if you stay with me until the end, you'll uncover exactly how to regain your place. Not by force, not with guilt, but as someone deeply respected, cherished, and valued. So before we begin, I want to invite you to take a breath. Settle in. Maybe pour yourself a warm cup of tea or coffee, and let's share this time together. Just you and me, like old friends. And as we go, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt like your children just don't respect you the way they used to? If you're ready to make a change, leave a comment below with the words, "It's time they respect me again." Your voice matters here. And who knows, your comment might be the one that gives someone else the strength to start their own journey. Oh, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Because what you're about to discover could not only shift your relationship with your children, it might just bring back the part of you that's been missing for far too long. Ready? Let's begin. Action 1. Don't argue, lead by example. When your children begin to brush off your opinions, cut you off mid-sentence, or respond to your words with condescension, your first instinct might be to push back, to remind them, maybe even firmly, of all the sacrifices you've made, to raise your voice just enough so they hear you, so they finally understand what you've given and why you deserve their respect. But here's something that might save you years of heartache. Arguing doesn't bring back respect, it buries it. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time someone truly respected you because you argued with them? Respect isn't earned by volume. It isn't won through emotional battles or long speeches. It's earned in silence, in the way you carry yourself when the world, even your own children, seem to test your patience. Because when you respond to disrespect with anger, you're not just defending yourself, you're silently telling them they've already gotten under your skin. You're giving away the very power you're trying to protect. I remember a man named Frank. He'd been a teacher for over 30 years, respected, admired, in control of every room he walked into. But in his own home, it was different. His adult children dismissed his advice, talked over him, and sometimes even smirked when he tried to offer correction. At first, Frank did what many parents do. He fought back. He tried to reason with them, to assert his authority, to prove he still deserved their attention. But the more he tried, the more distant and dismissive they became. Until one day, he stopped arguing. Frank made a quiet but powerful shift. He listened more, not passively, but with intention. He spoke less, but when he did, his words carried calm, confidence, and quiet wisdom. He no longer chased respect. He embodied it. He didn't need to prove anything, because he lived like a man who had nothing to prove. And gradually something changed. His children began to pay attention, not because he demanded it, but because he became someone they couldn't ignore. If your children aren't respecting you, don't chase after their attention. Show them by example what self-respect looks like. Keep your dignity intact. Speak with calm certainty. Let your presence, not your protests, do the talking. And above all, never stoop to the level of those who treat you poorly, because when you hold yourself with quiet strength, they feel it, and slowly they begin to follow your lead, not because you force them to, but because they want to. Let's keep going. Action 2. Stop giving without appreciation. One of the fastest ways to lose respect, without even realizing it, is to keep giving to those who no longer value what you offer. And as parents, we often do this out of love, out of habit, out of the deep-rooted desire to always be there for our children. We offer our time, our energy, our support. We bend, we adjust, we sacrifice, even when there's no thank you, even when our efforts are brushed aside, even when, instead of gratitude, we're met with complaints, or worse, expectations. But here's something most people never say out loud. When you continue giving to someone who doesn't appreciate it, you don't create closeness. You create entitlement. Your kindness becomes invisible. Your sacrifices become expected. And the moment you stop, they don't feel grateful. They feel inconvenienced. I once knew a man named George, a devoted father with a heart as big as his patience. Anytime his children needed help, he was there. Financial support? He gave it without hesitation. Moving day? He dropped everything. Change in their schedule? He rearranged his entire week just to be available. He believed that giving was how he showed love. But over time, something shifted. The thank you stopped. The appreciation faded. His children began to act as if his help was something they deserved. And when George, later in life, needed their help, they were too busy. That moment broke something in him, but it also woke something up. George made a quiet decision. He stopped offering before being asked. He stopped overextending himself. And most importantly, he started saying no when it didn't feel right. At first, his children were surprised, even upset. They didn't understand why their dependable dad had changed, but eventually they noticed. They started being more mindful of his time, more appreciative of his presence, because suddenly they saw it. His generosity wasn't a bottomless well. It was a gift, not a guarantee. If you've been feeling like your efforts go unnoticed, like your kindness is being consumed, but not cherished, pause. Take a step back. Ask yourself honestly, am I giving more than I should? And if I stopped today, just for a while, what would change? Because when you teach others that your time, your love, your support are earned through respect, they'll begin to treat them and you differently. If this part of the message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. There's someone out there, a parent, a grandparent, who needs to hear this too. Share this video with them. It might be the wake-up call they never knew they needed. Let's keep going. Action 3. Building life outside of them. One of the most profound ways to earn back your children's respect, without ever having to ask for it, is to show them that your happiness doesn't depend on them. As parents, we naturally devote our lives to our children. We put their needs first, wrap our daily routines around their schedules, and center our identities around being their constant support. But with time, something subtle yet powerful begins to shift. If we're not careful, the very love we gave so freely can become the thing that leaves us feeling empty. Because when you've spent your entire life prioritizing them, they may begin to see you not as a whole person, but as someone who exists only in relation to them. And here's the truth. People, even your own children, respect those who have their own lives, their own rhythm, their own joys, struggles, and passions. But if your children sense that your days revolve around their calls, their visits, their attention, they might start to pull away. Not because they don't love you, but because they feel pressure. Or worse, they start to see you as someone with no life beyond them. I remember a woman named Eleanor, a widow in her late 70s. When her husband passed, her world quietly collapsed. With no one else to turn to, she poured every ounce of her energy into her adult children, calling frequently, offering advice even when it wasn't asked for, hoping they could fill the space that had opened in her heart. But the more she reached out, the more distant they became. Calls grew shorter, visits fewer, and Eleanor, despite all her efforts, felt lonelier than ever. Then one day she made a different choice, a brave one. She joined a local book club. She started traveling with old friends. She volunteered at the senior center down the street. She picked up gardening again. Bit by bit, she rebuilt a life where she was at the center. Not her loneliness, not her grief, and not her children. And slowly, something incredible happened. Her children began to reach out more. They asked questions, they showed curiosity, they admired her independence. For the first time in years, they didn't just love her as a mother, they respected her as a person. So ask yourself honestly, do your children see you as someone with a rich, fulfilling life of your own? Or do they see someone waiting for a phone call, a visit, a sign that you still matter? Because the moment you begin truly living, not just existing, they'll start seeing you differently. They'll begin to value your time. They'll recognize your strength. And most importantly, they'll respect the life you've built for yourself. If this message has stirred something in you, if you're nodding quietly because it hits home, then I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below with the words, "I'm building my life again." Let that be your promise to yourself and your inspiration to others who may be on the same path. If this video has brought you any insight or comfort, please take a second to like it, subscribe if you haven't, and turn on the bell so you never miss an episode. And if you'd like to support this channel even further, feel free to click the Super Thanks button. It helps us keep creating meaningful content just like this for people who truly need it. Now let's keep going. Action 4. Withdraw your emotional dependence. One of the most difficult but important truths to accept as we get older is that we cannot rely on our children to fulfill our emotional needs. Yes, we love them deeply. And yes, of course, we want their love, their care, their respect in return. But the moment they sense that you need them to feel whole, to feel valued, the balance of the relationship starts to tilt, and not in your favor. Here's the honest truth. People, including your own children, respect those who stand on their own 2 feet emotionally. When you lean on them for constant reassurance, for attention, for validation, it doesn't create closeness. It creates pressure. Pressure that makes them feel responsible for your happiness. And instead of drawing them in, that pressure often pushes them away. They may become distant, cold, even irritated by your efforts to connect. And the more you chase after their love, the more they pull away. Not because they don't love you, but because it begins to feel like a responsibility, not a relationship. I once met a woman named Helen, a gentle, giving mother who had always put her children first. She loved them fiercely. But as they grew older and built their own busy lives, Helen found herself alone more often than not. She waited by the phone, hoping for a call, and when it didn't come, she called them, sometimes multiple times a week, reminding them how much she missed them, how quiet the house felt without them. Her intentions were pure, but over time, her calls became something her children started to avoid. What once felt like love now felt like guilt, obligation, a burden. Then one day, Helen made a different choice. She stopped waiting. She stopped calling first. Instead, she turned her focus inward. She joined a knitting circle. She went out for morning walks with neighbors. She signed up for a painting class she'd always wanted to try. And gradually, something shifted. Her children started calling more, reaching out, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They admired the new energy in her voice. They respected the life she was building. And without saying a word, Helen reminded them of something powerful. She was still her own person. The less emotionally dependent you are on your children, the more they will begin to see you with fresh eyes. Not as someone waiting for their affection, but as someone strong enough to create their own joy. And respect? It naturally follows that strength. If this part of the message resonates with you, or if you know someone who's been struggling with this exact dynamic, do them a favor and share this video. You never know how much one quiet shift in perspective can change a person's whole experience of aging, love, and self-worth. Now let's keep going. Action 5. Stop chasing their approval. One of the most common mistakes parents make as they grow older, often without realizing it, is trying too hard to earn their children's approval. You start adjusting your schedule to fit theirs. You say yes when your heart is screaming no. You bite your tongue, hold your breath, and push your own needs aside. All in the quiet hope that one day they'll finally see how much you care and start appreciating you more. But here's a truth that may be hard to hear. The more you chase their approval, the more they lose respect for you. It's not because they're ungrateful. It's because human nature works like this. When you constantly give without boundaries, when you shrink yourself just to keep the peace, you teach others that your voice, your feelings, and your worth come second. Respect isn't earned through silent sacrifice. It's earned through self-respect. I remember a woman named Margaret. In her younger days, she was bold, independent, a woman who spoke her mind and stood tall. But as she got older, things changed. She started letting her adult children make all the decisions. She'd cancel her plans to match theirs. She stopped offering her opinions, even when something felt wrong. And when her children occasionally spoke down to her, she said nothing. "I just want to keep the family together," she told me once. Her heart was in the right place, but her silence had a cost. Over time, her children stopped asking for her thoughts. They stopped seeing her as a guiding voice. She became, in their eyes, someone who would always nod, always agree, always say yes. Margaret thought she was avoiding conflict, but in truth, she was slowly erasing herself from the conversation. If you feel like your children don't respect you, the answer isn't to raise your voice. It's to raise your standards. Respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you model. Set boundaries. Speak up when something feels wrong. Say no when you need to, even if it ruffles feathers. Because the moment you begin valuing yourself, others have no choice but to do the same. And if this part of the video has struck a chord with you, I'd love to know you're still with me. Leave a comment below that says, "I choose self-respect." Let that be your reminder, your declaration, that you're no longer here to beg for appreciation. You're here to live with dignity. Also, if you found value in this video, please take a moment to like it and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly helps more than you know. And if you feel moved to contribute, you can click the Super Thanks button below. It helps us continue creating meaningful content for people just like you. Now let's keep going. Action 6. Set boundaries and enforce them. One of the most overlooked reasons why children lose respect for their parents is because the parents unintentionally allow it. When you let your children speak to you with sarcasm or disregard, when you let them brush off your opinions, ignore your time, or treat your feelings like they don't matter, it doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means they've learned this is okay. Because whether we like it or not, people, especially family, will always treat us the way we let them. Setting boundaries isn't about creating drama. It doesn't mean you have to cut ties, start fights, or walk away from your children. It simply means you draw a clear, calm line that says, "This is how I expect to be treated." And if that line is crossed, there will be consequences. But here's the key. It only works if you enforce it. Boundaries without follow-through are just suggestions. I once knew a man named Robert, a strong, disciplined businessman who once ran his own company with authority and precision. But when it came to his grown-up kids, he became hesitant, passive. They'd interrupt him in mid-sentence, roll their eyes when he gave his opinion, even criticize how he chose to live his retirement years. And for a while, Robert stayed silent. He told himself it wasn't worth the trouble, that keeping the peace mattered more. But over time, he realized something powerful. Every time he swallowed his words, he was silently teaching them that it was okay to disregard him. So he made a change. The next time his son cut him off mid-conversation, Robert didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "I'll continue when you're ready to listen." When his daughter dismissed his perspective, he replied, "You don't need to agree with me, but you will speak to me with respect." And when their behavior didn't improve, he followed through. He calmly told them that if they couldn't treat him with basic decency, he wouldn't be spending time with them. At first, they pushed back. They resisted. But gradually, they began to listen. Not because he forced them to, but because he stood firm in his self-worth. He taught them, without yelling or pleading, that respect was the price of his presence, and that made all the difference. So if your children aren't treating you the way you deserve, it's time to stop asking why and start asking what you're allowing. Because if you don't set the rules of how you want to be treated, no one else will. Respect begins where self-respect is enforced. If this insight has made you reflect, even just a little, do someone else a quiet kindness. Share this video. You never know who might be struggling silently, waiting for the words that give them the strength to draw that first boundary. Let's move forward. Here's what I hope you'll take away from today. Respect from your children isn't something you can force. It's something you quietly earn through the way you carry yourself, the way you honor your own boundaries, and the way you choose to live with purpose. If you've been feeling overlooked, dismissed, or even hurt by how your children treat you, don't spend another day wasting your energy trying to fix it with anger or guilt. Instead, shift the way you show up. Stop seeking their approval, because the moment you no longer need it is the moment they'll start offering it freely. Lead with quiet strength, because dignity speaks volumes louder than words. Let go of emotional dependence, because when you no longer lean on them to feel whole, they'll begin to see you as someone solid, grounded, complete. Set firm boundaries and follow through with grace, because people will only treat you as well as you require them to. Stop giving endlessly without appreciation, because generosity loses its magic when it's expected, not respected. And above all, build a rich, meaningful life that stands apart from theirs, because people admire those who have their own light, their own joy, their own reasons to wake up every morning. If you choose to live by these truths, something extraordinary will begin to happen. Your children will start seeing you differently, not as someone waiting on the sidelines of their lives, but as someone they look up to again. Not because you demanded their respect, but because you became someone impossible to ignore. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What was the one insight in today's video that truly struck a chord with you? What change are you ready to make starting today? Leave a comment below with the words, "I'm ready to regain respect." That simple sentence could spark a ripple of change, not just in your life, but in the lives of others who read it too. If this video offered you clarity, comfort, or inspiration, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you won't miss any future content. And if you feel moved to help support this work and share this message with more people who need it, you can now contribute directly through the Super Thanks button below. Every bit of support helps us continue creating heartfelt, meaningful content for you and others like you. And if there's a topic you'd love to see us dive into next, maybe something you're struggling with in this stage of life, or a question you've never quite found an answer to, drop it in the comments. We're listening, and we're here to serve you better with every new video we make. In the next episodes, we'll be exploring more about how to rebuild connection with adult children, how to rediscover joy in this season of life, and how to create peace within yourself and within your home. You won't want to miss it. Always remember this: you are not a burden. You are not invisible. You are worthy of love, of respect, and of a life that feels deeply fulfilling. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, take care of your heart, walk with quiet confidence, and know that your best chapter may still be ahead.